Welcome to the very first episode of the Quarter Mile Podcast. I'm Drew Davis.
I'm Bailey Jackson.
I may be the biggest Fast and Furious fan on earth.
That's about the only difference between me and Drew, minus the hair. Everything else is exactly the same.
You poor soul, if that's the case. There wasn't much of my life before Fast and Furious.
I have had an entire life of Fast and Furious.
Life is short. Watch a movie and enjoy a podcast and live your life a quarter mile at a time. Welcome back to our Quarter Mile Podcast Season 1 recap. What you just heard was our first trailer for our first episode, which aired in January of 2024 this year. So I guess
so far.
First, Bailey, who are we before this podcast?
I had such a different style of hair.
True.
At least it was a different color.
You've had a different color of hair, I think, for every single episode.
I did.
Yeah. Was that on purpose?
I don't think so.
We're going to talk a little about the series. We're going to talk about our podcast journey as a whole.
This was a journey.
We started in January.
We started on a computer.
We did. We were virtual because there was a snowpocalypse.
There was a snowpocalypse.
We planned on being...
It was cold.
We planned on being in Jackson. Yes, it was cold. My car was in the shop.
Like the cold openings.
The weather was as cold as our cold opening. We're currently in Tennessee's snowpocalypse. If you're from Tennessee, you know we don't get much snow. And then when we do get snow, we have no idea what to do with it. So me and Bailey were actually supposed to, I'm in Nashville, she's in Jackson. We were supposed to actually get together to film this podcast, but the roads were like, don't do that. So we didn't. So we're doing our first episode virtually, which a lot of feedback I got when researching podcasts was don't do virtual podcasts. Do it in person because they're better. But I feel like we've grown since that episode. We're more comfortable talking. I feel like we do better episodes.
I think so. We adopted another person.
We did. We adopted Alan by season 3.
We have a child that's older than both of us.
Yes, we have our Fast and Furious child, who's our videographer, and
he's a great rapper.
Yo, I ain't much for freestyling, but I gotta let go. What I know about the world today, it ain't going the way destiny has foretold, fate has foreclosed. And another thing, can the world not see what I believe to be pure laziness, pleading insanity in a world full of hate and greed? The end, Fast and Furious for life.
That's been one of my favorite part of doing this podcast is our interactions, picking up Alan, interacting with him. We've had a couple guests. We've had a few episodes.
Our guest interactions are fun.
Those are fun. We did the 9th one when we had like an army of guests. That was cool.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Make some noise! All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, High Tone in Memphis, for having us. We are at episode 9 of the Quarter Mile Podcast. This is our live episode recording. Just like in every Fast and Furious movie, our cast has gotten bigger. We have some all-stars here tonight. We are so happy that we're here with you guys in the High Tone, and we're so happy that our family has grown. Is it weird when I look at you and say our family? I feel like maybe I shouldn't have phrased that.
We're family.
Yeah, like
it's fine.
Yeah. Me and Bailey's family has grown, and I'm so excited. We have several guests for this episode, and you see a couple of them right now, and you'll see a couple throughout the episode. And if you're listening to us, you won't see any of them, but you'll hear their voices. Do people come up to you and randomly talk about Fast and Furious now?
It's not really like random people per se, but it is coworkers that all get surprised that they actually care that enough. So then I'm like, oh, that's sweet. That's cool. You see me more than just a coworker. I
have to watch myself. I have to watch my reaction now, because used to be when someone would be like, I listen to your podcast, my first question was like, why? Why? But now I'm very complimented by it. And also more people like Fast and Furious than they let on. People are always like telling me what a bad series or whatever it is. And now that I've done this podcast,
it's so interesting, and I can agree, because like I said, in the very beginning that I had grown up on Fast and Furious, and I have, but I guess my perspective now as a grown human of pop culture and everything is just the fact that I enjoy entertainment and pop culture, but that's just from a lot of my weird learning and all that experience and being a musician and all that stuff. Absolutely. So I have a different viewpoint now, just because now I like to see things in a more unbiased perspective, like music. I'm not really a big fan of say country or rap, but I like country and rap because it's music and it's art, so it's an artful taste. But same with the movies. They're not my favorite, but I enjoy them because they're an artful entertainment. And like how Alan said at our episode that we just filmed, that you'll see it at some point when you take a look. He mentioned that the visuals were really nice in this, and it's true. I mean, it just gets better and better and better because, I mean, our technology gets better. So it's like you get to grow with the movie series. We all grow together. So that's cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've just, and this, doing this podcast kind of has helped me with this, but like, I just like enjoying movies. I like to watch stuff. I like to have fun. Whether it's like a really like what people would be like, man, that was a great movie, or if it's like a dumb movie. And let's be honest, some of these Fast and Furious were dumb movies. Like,
that's true.
But if someone said, what do you think about Fast and Furious? Now that you've been forced to watch all 10 of them.
Now that I was forced to watch all 10 of them in like a pretty close sitting, even though it's been in a span of like 10 months, it's the Diesel verse. It really is. It's all about Vin Diesel. It's the first 3 movies were definitely the original trilogy that they seem to have planned in mind, and then after that, it seems to that Vin Diesel was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm making money and I'm popular over this, so let's maybe dive in a little deeper." Or maybe he already had in mind this entire time his whole storyline and origin story. He is the god of Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Like, he is over. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I feel that. I love these movies, and a lot of it hasn't changed since doing the podcast. In fact, and a lot of the reasons I love this movie, I've further explored in doing this podcast, which is I love the idea of your family are just the people that are close to you, right? Like, and they don't even have to be related. A lot of the Fast family, they're not related, and so, but there's this bond of people that are close to you. And so, in enjoying these movies over the years, I do that with people that are close to me. I enjoy, and even if it's watching it and making fun of how dumb it is, that's part of the fun of the movies. It's ridiculous. I don't look at it like this is an amazing plot. It's at this point, the more ridiculous, the better.
Yeah.
And so I do enjoy the movies. I'm not one of those people, and in doing this podcast, I've met some of these people now, and I knew them beforehand, but like, who will like sit here and say like, these are the most cinematic masterpiece movies you've ever, like, rare now do people still say that, but a few of them do.
I feel like we're taking for granted the fact that everything in these movies is intentional.
When you think about doing this podcast, what were some of your favorite and or least favorite moments?
Oh, yeah. So my favorite
She has a
and
list.
least favorite. Well, okay. My least favorite was probably the snowpocalypse, just in general, just because we were kept up and we had to kind of figure out, like, we would have to take breaks here and there for our Zoom cutting out. So
I do free Zoom, everyone. Don't judge me.
I didn't realize that Zoom wasn't even free anymore because of COVID, because I was a student during that time, so Zoom was free to me. But then when we did that whole thing, we figured out that it cuts out after like
45
minutes. Yeah. So when we were it was like our first episode trying to figure things out. Obviously, it takes more than 45 minutes to figure out technology, and when you're distant like that. So that was definitely kind of rough, but not really at the same time. I mean, if I have to pick a least favorite, that's probably my least favorite, but my favorite is probably, which is really, really, really hard, would have to go between either the 3rd episode with Alan or the episode with Parker, my friend Parker, just because I do enjoy having extra people there to bounce ideas off of. I don't know, 3 brains are better than 2.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
and it's also just interesting to hear somebody else's dynamic.
It really, whenever you bring in a guest, it added a lot. I noticed that. I
really
that with
like
Alan
guests being brought
Parker,
in,
and then on the
and
night
I
one,
liked the whole table of people for sure. I mean, obviously, the live podcast was just a totally different
it was
thing in general. Like, you have to go check that out. But yeah, I really like getting people involved. That's really a huge thing for me.
the ones that are hardest for me to go back and listen to are 1 and 2. as far as like editing and stuff like that. Second one, I had it in my mind that I wanted these to be 45-minute episodes. So we record, our normal recordings are like an hour and a half, and I cut out about 45 minutes of it. I always thought like, oh, maybe it'll be like a director's cut or something like that. But then in the past year, my old computer died and I got a new one. So like the 45-minute episode that we have is what we have. Like there's never going to be a director's cut. But that's a bummer because when you listen to that second episode, it feels like we were just racing through a podcast.
That's so funny.
Because I cut so much to it. I think sometimes it's hard for me to look at the second one because I'm like, this could have been better. I could have left more.
This could have been better.
But that's because of the editing, not because
so I
of the
guess you were a little too fast, too furious.
I think 3 was my favorite episode to record. We brought Alan in, but we also brought in cooler technology. We just had a better idea of what we were doing, and I think that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, exactly.
And you all have said some nice things about our podcast, and I wanted to share a few of the positive reviews we've gotten. So here they are. So this is from Anthony Hammonds, who I believe is here from Jackson.
Yeah.
And he said, awesome hosts that are relatable, funny, and put in time learning facts to make sure the audience always picks up a few tidbits that they may not have already known. Must check them out. And again, that was Anthony. So thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds.
So Matt Adkins, he said, this podcast can cure your dislike for the Fast franchise.
Well, it's fine. I don't care.
Thanks. I like to think we're doctors on that kind of way.
Yeah. Apple a day.
If the disease is not liking Fast and Furious, we're cures.
Yeah, exactly.
And this actually came from one of my friend's kids, Stephen Hughes, who's also a really big supporter of my comedy and is just really encouraging. Just to let you know, I love the Quarter Mile podcast on TikTok, which is, he might be the only person on TikTok that loves their podcast. He's like, I have also watched Fast and Furious movies 1 through 3, and I've loved all of them, and I can't wait to watch the rest.
Heck yeah.
So
Thank you.
Isn't that fun? Like
that's nice.
Doing this is encouraging for better or for worse, we're encouraging other people to watch.
Yeah.
I bet you their movies, like being seen, has skyrocketed because of our podcast.
Thank y'all for being a part of our family.
Of course, not everyone has been satisfied with our work as podcasters.
Of course not. You got the hecklers.
You got the hecklers. You got the haters. We love your comments because it increases our algorithm and helps our self-esteem. Do you remember the first episode when we talked about Mia being underage?
Yeah.
And all the people and the hate comments that?
Of course I remember that.
Real question, though, is how old is Mia? Because there's a lot of evidence in this scene especially that she's a high school student. First being that she's doing homework when they get there. Second being everyone's drinking a beer, but do you know what Mia was drinking?
I can't remember what she was drinking.
She was drinking a Snapple, which is a really weird choice for a drink.
Oh, yeah.
But if Mia was a high schooler, does that not make Paul Walker's character look so much weirder in this?
That one was the first trial by fire.
Yeah, that was right. We posted that and got so much flack, so much Parker flack from it. It was
so much Parker flack.
In the second episode, we posted about a fan theory about Roman and
the bromance.
Yeah, the bromance between
That's
Brian
right.
O'Connor and Roman. And you would have thought we asked people to sacrifice their firstborn child.
So sorry, guys. We had to make it gay.
The theory is that Brian and Roman apparently, maybe when they were teenagers, had some kind of love. There are things in the movie that kind of add to that. They had some kind of vicious breakup. For example, you look at how annoyed he looks when Brian's hitting on Eva Mendez's character.
Yeah.
It's just you see what could be misconstrued or construed, if this is how you think, as romantic tension. I love their bromance, but maybe it was just a straight up bromance without the beat. Right. So that was a big no-no. All these testosterone-filled men were like, no, not our...
It's called a joke. Right. Thank you.
In episode 8, we had a clip where we were talking about the prison scene and how they used rubber bullets. Mm-hmm. And tons of people really went into do you guys not know how guns in prisons work? There was a very strong opinions about gun safety in prisons and how dumb we were for, I don't know, noticing something.
For the fact that they had rubber bullets for a high security prison for people that were ultimate killers. Okay, let's talk about that for a second, though. The fact with the whole prison break situation, and they were literally shooting at them with bullets that weren't bullets.
Right.
it was like a high security.
I don't know what they were
Why
thinking
were they
about.
rubber bullets? You had like terrorists that were under lockdown, and he's like, a rubber bullet. Oh, that's a bad mistake. And I'm like, why is it a rubber bullet? Yeah, I'm sorry for being ignorant. My bad. And also to take into this as well, even if that was like a realistic approach and that's a thing that they're doing, so my bad. This is Fast and Furious. People are flying off of freaking skyscrapers and cars, flying around mountains, tethered to a tiny little cable, apparently. They're jumping out of airplanes and stuff. They're going to space in a trash can. So none of it makes any sense. So for the fact that you're asking why we even ask that question, why are you getting mad about something that's not sensical anyways?
Yeah, really look inward. Honestly.
Really look inward.
Yeah.
Or don't watch it all.
And my favorite real kind of response to that was at one point, and it was the episode we were pissed at.
Oh my gosh.
It was our 6th episode, and Bailey decided to finally address a lot of TikTok haters, and I loved that clip so much.
This is just, I guess, a really quick disclaimer that movies are movies. They're entertainment for a reason. So for those of you guys that get upset about certain things in movies, I get it. That's fine. Just don't watch it. It's not that big of a deal.
So me and Bailey have come up with each a top 10 list of just kind of moments in our podcast over the past year. And so now we want to share them with you. And I'll let Bailey go first, and then I'll go after that.
Okay. I guess these were what made me just laugh overall, because they were just funny. Kind of like the director's cut, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of Drew.
Okay, fair enough.
So, the first episode is Drew not knowing about flirting with women. I had to go through a whole conversation with Drew where I had to explain to him that he definitely was flirting with Mia because he ordered a crustless tuna sandwich.
Okay, so I guess this is like a guy thing, maybe. I'm not quite sure. I'm just kidding. So he went to go get a tuna sandwich because no one likes tuna sandwiches, and he's clearly going because he's trying to get the girl's attention.
The second one was, so I pretty much have them per episode for the most part. Was the second episode where Drew, this is the beginning of when he started roasting my Twilight taste throughout the entire season of our podcast. So every now and then Twilight gets brought up because that was my Fast and Furious series, pretty much, I guess. So he just would roast it all the time, but he loves Fast and Furious as a series, so we're kind of one and the same. Nothing wrong with that. I like the first Twilight, so.
Yeah, well, Twilight is a terrible movie series.
Don't do that to me.
I can't say.
Don't do that to me.
Maybe that'll be our next rewatch. Maybe
it's fine.
Maybe we'll rewatch Twilight.
No, I don't want you to hate me over that.
You know what's funny is one of the more common comments I get when people are asking me about season 2 are like, so are you guys going to do Twilight since you did Fast and Furious this year? Like that's been like the we'll talk about what we're doing for season 2, but unfortunately I'll just go ahead and let you know in case you want to stop listening now that it's not Twilight. So.
I don't know, we might have a Twilight podcast at some point if I really reel him into it. So if y'all want it that badly, just let me know.
Yeah,
he'll do it.
I would be open to consider.
I'll force him. So. There's no consideration. So the third one is the third episode, and that is when Drew messes up my parents' name. My parents definitely watched
Thank
it.
you, Karen and
Rodney.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bailey's dad.
I don't know if they're okay with their names being disclosed, but
whoops.
That may or may not be their names.
Yeah, also it could be Roger and Baron, so probably not.
Do I need to hit the censor button on the board?
Number 4. This is from the third episode as well. That is over race wars, and this is when, again, throughout the series, how even Alan jumped in to talking crap. about how I would call the series Race Wars instead of Fast and Furious because of actually how stupid the name is.
By the way, my son pointed out that Race Wars was a terrible name. The first time they said it, he looked
There
at
you
me.
go.
He looked
Yeah.
at me and was like, "Dad, what are we watching? What's?" Yeah, I was like, "No. This is like 2001, bro. So
Yeah.
calm down. This is."
It's funny because that was actually Bailey's first suggestion for the name of this podcast.
Shut up.
Wait, was it really, or is that a joke?
No, it's a
Okay.
joke. It's a
Come
joke.
on.
I'm sorry.
Come on. Really?
Race Wars had a comeback. This movie.
Race Wars.
We'll get to talk about more
They
Race
had a
Wars.
comeback. Yeah, they did.
Bailey's still petitioning that that's what we name our podcast, Race Wars, the Fast and Furious podcast. I told her some of our audience wouldn't like it, but she says, you know what? It's the best name out there. So,
And apparently Drew thinks he can speak for me.
I'm just kidding.
well, I am a man.
Oh.
And we are on a Fast and Furious podcast.
You're right. I'm sorry. let me know my place.
As I remember it, you were very pro it being called Race Wars, and you really were bummed out in the first episode when we were talking about how that was a name that they clearly denied.
Did I?
Not even a little bit. I'm making that up.
Oh my gosh. See, this is the problem. I have a terrible memory, and they can do stuff like this, and I'll believe them. That's not okay. Because I change my mind that easily, too. I'm a human mood ring, so I'm bound to literally have an opinion tomorrow differently than I have an opinion today. So
Her opinion tomorrow is going to be Race Wars is actually a pretty good idea for a movie name.
no, I still stand on it being terrible, actually. Drew likes Vince and keeps trying to explain to me how Vince is a good guy or a good character.
Vince was right all along. Everyone was so mean to this poor guy. Granted, he's a bit of a jerk. Okay, granted, he's a huge
He
jerk.
is.
But you know what? He wasn't
He is.
wrong the entire movie about like Brian's character, and
true.
if they just listened to him, their whole heist might have gone off a lot better.
Vince, I kind of like Vince for some reason. I don't know what it is about him. He's kind of like
Let's talk about.
He's just, I don't know. He has weird vibes. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah.
He just has weird vibes, and he's skeptical in all the wrong ways.
Okay, in this movie, he has a lot of flaws. He was working for the bad guys, but he was also just trying to pay for his kids in a corrupt country. Like he had a family he was taking
That's
care of.
fair.
All he knew in life was being a criminal. Like he was doing, and sure, he was double crossing them again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I don't have any
Oh
defense
my
for.
gosh. Thank
yeah,
you.
that was real bad.
To be fair, he was stabbing them in the back again,
Yeah,
but it's fine.
But like, the funny thing is that to me, a lot of people looked at Vince as like he was a villain, but really Vince was the hero the entire time.
I'm sorry. Can you say that louder so Bailey can hear it? Justice for Vince.
Justice for Vince. Anyways, so next is our cold intro for the episode 6, where we have the sirens and the really awkward cut to our killer intro because it killed the mood.
Welcome back to the Quarter Mile Podcast. I don't know if you can hear the ambulance sirens in the background or not. And if you can't, it's really weird that I'm mentioning them. But we're here at the Quarter Mile Podcast
Ooh, sound the alarm.
on episode 6. I know. It was
Sound it.
such a big deal. The police, they were like, someone must be injured from the awesomeness of this podcast.
Exactly, because we're
Killing it.
show stopping and killing it. I guess that's the only one actually that's good. 7th episode. Drew goes Batman instead of Vin Diesel.
Somehow he came back.
About time.
There's so many Vin Diesel impressions that Drew has tried to do.
I don't got friends. I got family.
And then 8th episode is she had the personality of a rug. Quote, Drew Davis.
Who was I talking about?
You were talking about Cypher.
Yeah.
She's predictable.
She had about the personality of like a rug. And not even like a fancy rug, like one of
Yeah.
those mats that just say welcome home. She was
but with a sad face. No, an angry face.
not welcome home.
You're not welcome.
Welcome home, but not this one. Oh yeah, she has the personality of a rug. I stand by that statement.
But that's just fun. I don't know. I guess it's mainly just our dynamic that's my most favorite because it's almost like, I don't know, we've just gotten more bold.
Yeah. At the beginning, we were like, I mean, if you're cool with this, or
If you're
whatever,
cool with
so-
it, and now I'm just like, No. You suck.
Absolutely.
But I love you.
I feel that too. I'll be like, can you do that again, but just less.
But less bad.
That? Yeah, less bad. Yeah, I like that. That, and as it should be. Good for, we were just talking about this before the podcast.
Yeah.
When you're like sarcastic with your friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say meaner things because you care about them more.
Exactly.
And so we speak terribly to each other, but it's meant out of love.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I've learned a lot about Bailey over this podcasting experience. And here are the 10 things I've learned about Bailey based off the episodes. Maybe my favorite Bailey fun fact, we learned it in Too Fast, Too Furious. She has a holiday-themed hit list.
I've got a whole Santa list of people I would probably want to fight, but I won't.
Come back to our episode next month. We'll talk about Tokyo Drift, and Bailey shares her Santa list of all the people that she wants to fight. And you, the audience, get to pick the first 3 that she fights. The reason it's called Santa is because she checks it twice. By the way, have you updated that list lately?
It's mental. So.
Oh, okay, so yes. Nobody has a better Alabama accent than Bailey. This is where we all need to do our best Lucas Black.
Oh, man, I can't even. Yeah.
I thought Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong.
I can't do it, yeah.
Donkey Kong.
But we all gave it our best shot, and I feel like she won. If that was a contest, she definitely won. So you're the most Alabama of all of us. Hope that brings you joy.
That sucks.
This is just in case anyone's wondering, Bailey is not a foot person.
There's that guy that was sucking on a ton of random women's toes, and this is not me exaggerating. The cops come in and they get him, but it's like, what did I just watch?
This is a fun fact. Bailey actually, in her earlier years, was a vigilante.
My friend was being picked on the playground, and it was a girl being picked on by a little dude, which we all know now that's probably what he was just having a crush or something. It was stupid. So I went over to him and I was like, I'm a yellow green belt. I can beat you up. I'm in Taekwondo. I'm trying. And he's like, no, you can't. But I was always tiny. But this guy was tinier than me.
Wow.
I know. I had the higher ground.
Did you beat up a small person? Is this where this story's going? I've been on your side.
He
this
was
whole
beating
time.
up a small person. He was beating up my friend that was a girl, and he was a guy, and it was in elementary school. So this isn't fair. So I just grabbed him and I pushed him down to the ground, and I grabbed his arm and I put it on his back, kind of like they do in the movies with like the cops, That wasn't even a Taekwondo move. I was just tired of him.
If you like Batman and Vin Diesel, you would also be a fan of Bailey Jackson. So we already talked about this one. Super fan of the term race wars. In fact, she's looking to rename herself Race Wars. It's her vigilante name.
Why? that sounds so societally wrong in so many ways.
And yet, it sounds so right. I'm just kidding.
But the emptiness of everything in my ears and hearing the echoes is like my brain exactly when you say something like that. It's like television static.
I've heard women tell me that a lot, that when I speak, they hear television static.
Sorry, what?
Nice. And then I just offer them a tuna sandwich just to see what happens. And they look like I'm a weirdo. It's funny because you mentioned our best intro into an episode we have, but I have to give you props. I think on our 8th episode, you had the best outro. You were very high. And the way you ended the episode had something to do with next time you're riding off into the sunset, or I don't even know.
Anyways, for all you summer loving people that also can't sleep during the hot days, y'all have a lovely one with y'all's trailblazing tires on them roads into the sunset.
Yeah.
Live your life 1/4 mile at a time. It was legal, okay? It was because we had a whole day of working out. I had to take something to take off the pain.
Okay, no one's going to believe that I spent a whole day working out. So the truth is we were filming reels for D&D Fitness. Shout out to them. And it was at a gym, and we worked out for maybe 20 minutes.
We're fit.
Yeah, it was enough. I was sore the next day, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so a few more things before we wrap up our episode. I think most importantly, we want to thank everyone who's been involved in this episode. So right off the bat, Alan Ingalls has been our camera guy and a special guest for 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. He's been filming us from 3 to 10, so he's been a big help, and we just really appreciate him and everything he does. We've had several guest appearances. We've had Parker Flack in episode 5, and he was awesome. We had Alan in 3 and in 10, and then in 9 we had Adam Malalando, and he's got a cooler last name than how I'm saying it. Nathan Jackson and Zach Williams. And they were fantastic in those. So if you've done any kind of special guests for us, we really appreciate that. We actually have a sponsor, D&D Fitness, who we were in their reels. They're one of our sponsors. So thank you, Kelly and D&D Fitness. And it's not Dungeons and Dragons Fitness, although I think that's a different idea for a gym, honestly. That would be cool. We've had a lot of people jump in on the conversations with us on social media. So I want to thank Niall Stark on TikTok, who's regularly commenting on all of our reels. I get worried when I don't see a comment from him. I'm like, is he okay? Like, what?
I know. So, it's like, is he not enjoying this right now? Are we not good enough for you?
Yeah, he's great. Richie, who's commented on our Reddits, who's given an actual interview that you can check out as some of our bonus content. We appreciate him. We've had a bunch of, just a lot of other people. Some of our frequent commenters, Zach jumped in on Facebook and gave us a lot of responses, and just there's tons of weird usernames, but like awesome people that were commenting on Reddit. So if you've just participated in this podcast in any way, it's been a new experience for us. It's been fun, and the community is what makes it the fun part, like responding and interacting with people. Yeah. So thank you for that. And thanks to everyone who's obviously listening or watching this podcast right now. So most common question I get about is for season 2. They say, what's season 2 going to look like? And there's 2 big things you should know about season 2 going forward. Number 1, I'll tell you about the premise of each episodes, because I don't know if you know this, but Fast and Furious only has 10 movies currently. But the story's not over. There's still a lot of other weird and random things around the Fast and Furious war. Well, I don't know what war I'm fighting with Fast and Furious, but the
race wars.
The race wars. Bailey's
I got you, Alan.
Bailey's brought me onto a crusade. I am now fighting in race war as well. So
ridiculous.
So for season 2, we are going to jump ship a little bit. We're still going to be Fast and Furious themed, but we're going to do what I'm calling Fast and Furious adjacent films. So there's so many movies around Fast and Furious that add light to this franchise. For example, like we said already, they ripped off Point Break for the very first movie. So our first episode in season 2 will be talking about Point Break. We'll be comparing Point Break and Fast and Furious, and then we have other movies in store. Han came from the movie Better Luck Tomorrow, so we're going to be talking about that. Did you know the Fast and Furious has bonus movies like the turbocharged prequel and Los Bandoleros, which was a 20-minute movie that Vin Diesel made just to set up for, and we're going to talk about those. Obviously, Hobbs and Shaw is going to be part of it, so we're going to talk about that, and there's just a lot of different movies that are around Fast and Furious culture. So the first thing is the content, and we're talking about Fast and Furious adjacent films, so we do hope you stay plugged in and listen to us. The second thing, one of us is not returning to this podcast next season. Bailey has been awesome and has stuck with me for 10 episodes. We committed to 10 episodes. She started as working as my personal assistant, and then she ended as just a personal friend, I guess. I'm not like just a regular person.
Well, we used to work together, technically, I guess.
Yeah. You worked at the club I got a few jobs at. So we went from like comedy club to comedy and assisting and working together, and to then podcasting. And Bailey has the audacity to have like a life outside of all of this, which I can't even imagine. But she does. So she is, and I can already see the comments in my head. People, because the most common comment I get about this podcast is Bailey is so cool. It's like, she is. Yeah. And so I feel like people are going to be like, man, the wrong host is leaving or whatever. But listen, if I have learned anything from Fast and Furious, is sometimes you don't need all the lead actors to come back to still produce. I mean, what if Paul Walker had quit after Vin Diesel left for Too Fast, Too Furious? What if Fast and Furious had quit after Paul Walker left after Too Fast, Too Furious?
You tell him.
right? You know, like, so there's still a story to be told here. There's still a podcast to be had. I'm very excited about where we're going. I hope you guys join us. I'll
be on there eventually.
I'll miss. We're gonna bring her back, just like everyone from the family comes back. We'll bring her back on, like, especially when Fast 11 or
that's
10
gonna be
Part 2
so
comes in.
interesting.
We're gonna have to bring her back for that one.
Yeah.
If it's either that's coming out or Jesus is coming back. One of those is happening first.
Whichever happens first.
Maybe Jesus. Will
Maybe
be
they'll
on a
just both
podcast.
be at the same time. We don't know.
What if we had a podcast with Jesus and Vin Diesel? I think that would be a fun episode.
You can't have two in the same room.
No, you can't do it. So. But we are super excited about season 2. We are super thankful that Bailey's been with us for season 1, and we hope to get her back at some point for guest appearances. But going forward, we will have some new hosts for season 2. So we'll let you know about that closer to when the first episode comes out. Mm-hmm. So that being said, Bailey, this is your time. You're going to close out our recap episode. You can give us any final thoughts, some words of wisdom, the farewells, or if you just want to tell us all to F off, you can do that too.
Thank you guys for asking to see my face multiple times. Thank you for harassing us on TikTok and being a friend and family. Anyways, rev those engines and make good decisions, or don't. Just be smart about it. And we're always here. Yeah. Yep. Have a wonderful time. I don't really know how else to really wrap this
like
up.
As soon as you say like something about like live your life a quarter mile.
Live your life a quarter mile at a time. Yeah.
All right, cool.